Welcome to Lesson 7 of mySci Unit 18, Our Dynamic Earth. In Lesson 7, students will answer the question, how can we design and compare structures to reduce the impact of earthquakes? This lesson is the Culminating Design Challenge. Students will use their learning throughout the unit in conjunction with the engineering design cycle to create structures that resist earthquake damage. They figure out that the design of the structure and building materials chosen can minimize destruction caused by earthquakes. In the Engage portion of this lesson, students will discuss how engineers test earthquake-proof designs when we don't know exactly when or where an earthquake will happen. They will be introduced to the engineering design cycle, reviewing each step. To begin with, students should identify the problem related to the design challenge. Next, students will observe the shake table model. The model allows the students to help make predictions and plan for events like earthquakes. You will demonstrate how the model functions so students can recognize a mild earthquake versus an earthquake that is more severe. Students will design prototypes of buildings that can survive earthquake shaking. In the Explore portion of this lesson, students complete steps 2 through 4 of the engineering design cycle. They will research and brainstorm, choose their best idea, and construct a prototype. To research and brainstorm, students will watch a video about earthquakes. Students could also be provided with various other text and video resources for research purposes. Next, have a class discussion about criteria and constraints. Students should recognize that criteria are requirements, or things that they must do for the design to be successful. Constraints are the limitations on the design. For their building design, students must have one opening that the bear can move through without touching the house. The building should fit on the plate, have a roof, be designed to resist a mild and severe earthquake for as long as possible, and must be ready to test in a given amount of time. The students are constrained by the materials available to them. Next, students will brainstorm ideas as a group, choose their best ideas, and develop their prototypes. In the Explain portion of this lesson, students will describe their prototype to the class and how it will help solve the problem at hand. They will then test their structure on the shake table and evaluate if the structure meets the requirements of the project. Students will record the results from round 1 of testing in their student journal. Students will communicate their initial findings to the class. They should describe what parts of their design worked, what did not work, or what worked differently than expected, and if there are any other important criteria or constraints to consider. Other student groups should provide feedback for each design. In the Elaborate portion of this lesson, students will redesign their structures based on their initial testing and evaluation. When students are done with their redesign, they will retest and evaluate their results. Note, it is not the goal for students to have a perfect structure at the end of the lesson. Instead, it is important that students engage in the design process, including the evaluation, communication, and redesign of their projects. In the Evaluate portion of this lesson, you will use the Earthquake-Resistant Structures Evaluation Checklist to evaluate the students' projects. Students can also be allowed to evaluate their own work. By the end of this lesson, students will use the engineering design cycle to create and improve a design.